Okay, so today we're going to look at making a data table and then turning that data table into a graph or a chart. And we do that in order to organize the information in a way that makes sense and makes it easy to read and to understand, so we can analyze it and hopefully answer whatever question we were trying to answer from our data collection. So we're going to suppose that you've already asked the question and have done a survey or some other way to collect the data that you're interested in finding. And as an example, I'm going to use students' favorite vegetables. So the first thing we have to do is enter the data into Google Sheet. And so here's what's called a spreadsheet. And you'll notice there are lots of little boxes on this spreadsheet. And each of these boxes is called a cell. And every cell has an address. We can tell what cell we're in because we can see the column that it's in, and all the columns have the letters of the alphabet. And we can see what row the cell is in, which are in numbers. So for instance, this would be column A1. This one would be C4. What do you think this column would be, or this cell would be? If you said E2, you've sunk my battleship. So the very first row at the top needs to have what are called the column headers. And the column headers explain what is the data in that column. So in column A, I'm going to be listing the choices of favorite vegetables. And in column B, I'm going to be listing the number of people said that that was their favorite vegetable. That you'll notice that column that the text in A1 is extending past the end of the cell, and I can resize the size of that cell by going up to the line here between column A and column B, and you'll notice it becomes this double arrow, and then I can click and just drag it to make that whole column wider. So we've got carrots, we've got potatoes, not potato chips, potatoes. No, I spelled it wrong. And we've got broccoli, right? And we've got asparagus. Those are our four choices. And the column header for column B will be the number of people. Again, we'll need to resize column B because it's a little bit too big, the text. And 7 people said carrots, and 9 people said potatoes, and 3 people said broccoli, and 2 people said asparagus. And now we have a data table. This is clearly organized. Favorite vegetables, the name of the vegetables, and the number of people who said that those were their favorites. Now we're going to turn this data table into a graph or a chart. To do that, I need to highlight all of the cells that have data in them, starting with A1. I'll click and I'll drag to highlight only those cells that have text or data entered into them. Don't highlight and include any empty cells. Now there are 2 ways I can turn this into a graph and chart. I could go to Insert, Chart, or I could just go over here to this button in the menu and say Insert Chart. So that's what I'm going to do. And now I have some choices to make. They recommend certain types of charts that I might use, including a bar graph, a pie chart, a number line, and what's called an area chart, and there are a whole bunch of them. I could look at more chart types because there are lots and lots of different types of line charts and column charts and bar graphs and pie charts and scatter plots and all sorts of different types of graphs or charts that we could choose. I think for this one, I'm just going to choose a bar or column graph. So we're going to choose the column. And you'll see it's already created a preview of the graph for me, but I need to make some edits to this. For instance, the title of this chart doesn't really make sense. It's not the number of people versus favorite vegetables. So I want to change that. I also, because it says the number of people here on the side and the numbers and the types of vegetables, and it has a label for both of the axes. I don't really need this, what's called a legend over here, so I'm going to get rid of that. To do all of those things, I'm going to go to Customization, and now I can edit the title of the chart. And I'm going to call it Favorite Vegetables of Students in Grade 4. I could change the color, the size, and the of that title, but I think this one works. And you notice it changed it. I can decide where to put this legend. And again, I don't really need this legend, so right now it's to the right. I'm going to say none. I don't need any legend. Scrolling down, I can choose a background, but I caution you, while you might like to make something that's really colorful, this also makes it really, adding a background color makes it really hard to read. And the important thing about making a graph or chart is to make it easy to read. That's the purpose of the graph or chart. So I'm actually going to choose to have just a white background, which again makes it very easy to read. I'm going to, scrolling down, I could change, for the axes, I could change the font, the size, the color of the title for the x-axis or for the y-axis. But I think those are fine, and those are easy to read. You know, maybe I'll actually make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to make that size. That's actually for the names of the vegetables. Scroll down. I could change the color of the bars. Unfortunately, you can't change the color of each separate bar. I don't know why they don't allow you to do that. That would make sense to me, but you can't. Data labels, I can add a value, and watch what this does. It adds the number directly to the bar. So, you know, this one's in between 7 and 5/10 and 10. Having that number 9 to know exactly how many seems to me to make sense. And what else can I do? There is a way, although I'm not positive of it, to change the, I don't see where it is, to change the scale. This is now counting by 2.5s. We might want a different scale, but I'm not sure how to do that right now. So once you've created your graph or chart and you think you have it exactly the way you want it to look, you press Insert, and it puts this into your spreadsheet. I can now move it over so I can see the data table and the graph or chart at the same time. Over here, right now I'm in the view only mode. If I use the pencil, I can go to the quick edit mode, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to quick edit, and then this gives me some more choices, one of which being the left vertical axis grid lines. I can specify, right now it's by 5s. I'm going to say, let's do by 8s, or that doesn't make sense, by 10s. And now it counts 0 all the way up to 9. That might make more sense. I could also do maybe 5s. We already seen before. That I didn't really like the halves. If I did by 2, no, that doesn't make sense. It looks like for this one, the one that makes the most sense is to count by 10, to go by 10s. If we had a really high number here, we might not want to do that. We might want to count by 2s or 5s. But because the highest value is only 9, counting by 1s seems to work. I could now select this whole graph or chart, right-click on it. No, right. Select the whole graph or chart. I could go to Edit, Copy, and if I wanted, I could then paste it into a Google Doc. where I could resize it and make it larger and maybe even add my analysis of the data. So I could go to New Google Doc. I could go to Edit and Paste. Try that again. Edit, paste. Here comes my graph or chart. And then I could analyze or write about, what the data tells me right below it. I could resize it if I like, make it a little bigger. So last thing I want to do, I want to make sure I give my spreadsheet a good title, a good name. So instead of untitled spreadsheet, a good title for this one might be favorite vegetables. And I might want to do the same thing for my Google Doc. And that's how you enter data into a Google Sheet or a spreadsheet to make a table, and then to turn that table using the Insert Chart tool into a nice graph or chart. Have fun collecting and analyzing data.